Welcome back to I Am African podcast. I am your host, Liz, and once again, I have to do this. If you didn't know, I am from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I am joined today by some special people, and we have Jean-Paul and Roddy.
Hello.
And of course, I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves. So I think I will skip and go to Roddy.
Okay. Yep. My name is Roddy, originally from Congo, and I grew up here in the U.S. Electrical engineer, and these are my colleagues. 150. Go ahead.
What's up?
All right. Como nanga is Jean-Paul. So that was basically, a traditional introduction. Say nanga meaning my name is Jean-Paul Mirenti. And of course, I'm also from Congo. I came into the US back in 2010, and I studied electrical engineering in college. And of course, Roddy and Liz are also my colleagues. And yeah, we're here.
Okay. That introduction took us back because me and Roddy were both like, wait, hold up, hold on. What happened?
Yeah, we were like, man, hold on now. We didn't know we're supposed to go Swahili, Lingala, Chiluba,
French?
all the dialect, French. Hey man, look,
No,
that was a good one. I like that. I actually like that.
No, Liz talked about being authentic, so I felt like I had to do that. So it's like for the people that know, they know, and for those who are like, oh, what did he just said? So I had to come back and actually say what
What?
I said. Yeah.
That's very good.
Mm-hmm.
That's very good. I like that.
I like that too. I really do. Yeah, that took me back. I'm not gonna lie. And okay, Roddy, did you peep the accent change? Like he sounded more French when he was introducing himself.
When he introduced himself, usually he sounds French, right? And I'm the one that always sounds more Americanized, Ghanaian. So
Yeah.
I'm always going to touch
Ghanaian.
on my French side only if I want to speak French. But other than that, yeah, he does. JP always sounds French because we are just blessed to speak multiple languages, and
Amen.
it's a good thing.
Yeah, I noticed that like with Africans, and I don't know if like I've filmed a lot of these episodes, and with Africans, all of them speak more than one or two languages. And it's incredible for Congolese though. It's very special because we speak more than two or three languages. Like I've noticed
Yeah.
all of my Congolese or like francophones, let's say, they all speak more than two languages.
Yes, I mean, it does go back to history. I think our Africa alone has multiple the continent have multiple dialects and multiple people that live in there. So in the Congo, we have a lot of dialect, and then we have a lot of tribes. Personally, my family, I would say my grandma and my grandpa on my father's side, they're both from the same tribe. But on my mother's side, my grandpa came from Angola, so they speak Portuguese, plus the dialect that they speak in Angola. So he moved to Congo, and then he started speaking Swahili. So my mother speaks Swahili, speak a little Portuguese. Sometimes it's the Swahili and the Portuguese mixed together, and then it's a break. It's like a different form of dialect that he just came up with. So when you're being raised by people that speak Portuguese, people that speak Swahili, Lingala, Chiluba, all these languages. I mean, it sounds like a party in your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, no, honestly, because it's like you are in a family that you have one side of the family speak one language and the other side speak one language, but there's one language that unites both of them together. So you grew up with both influences. And then when you go to a different province, people are like, where are you from? We can't really tell. To be exact. So you have to explain my parents are from here, and that's why I speak like this. Kind of almost like a form of try to validate yourself
Yeah,
all over again.
among your own people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
which
so.
it's not the best thing.
I'm glad that we had that conversation and we put it. But also, I wanted my guests to know, or my audience to know, that this is like the first episode where it's purely Congolese people. And I am actually in love right now. Like, I am obsessing and it keeps running in my head because I've had either like a Congolese person and a Nigerian, or two Nigerians. So it's amazing to see that, like, people, there's more of us here, there's a representation
Right.
of Congolese people out there. But
Yeah, there is.
I'm going to go and touch on our topic for today. So, the topic is actually refugees versus immigrants. We want to talk about the difference between refugees and immigrants. Of course, we're going to explore, like, the definition. We'll talk about the different struggles and the experience of both groups. And among us all, we belong to those two, either refugee or immigrant. The reason why I wanted to do this particular topic is because people tend to think that, like, everyone that comes to the US either is an immigrant. They don't even really know that the term refugee exists, but they always feel like, oh, it's immigrants. Those immigrants, anyone, people that escape war from their country, oh, those immigrants, everyone thinks everyone is an immigrant. But I want to note that there is a big difference between a refugee and an immigrant. And so, my question to both of you is, have you ever felt misunderstood as either a refugee or an immigrant, and people are just calling you immigrant? Once they find out you're not from the US, immediately they give you the label of immigrant.
Yeah, I would say they usually give everybody the same label as immigrants, right? But there's two different processes in being an immigrant and a refugee, right? So an refugee is someone who's seeking asylum, because of safety issues in their own countries. An immigrant is someone who's like willingly leaving the country to come and live in the US or to come study in the US. So that's why we have like students that migrate here to study, they get temporary visa and all of that. So for me, personally, I'm an immigrant. So I was sitting at home and I decided to come to the US and study. Could have been France, could be any European countries, but I decided to come here. And study and then stay here, right? It's a different process, require a lot of money, a lot of time. You don't get certain aids or help that the government gives to refugees, because everything you do is straight from ground up. You need to have your money right, to live here. So this is an experience of an immigrant.
So, from what I would like to say is, I think due to the ignorance that's here in the US, is just people just assume everybody that was not born here, that come here, is just an immigrant, right? They don't really know the backstory of somebody until you tell them and they go, oh my God, that really happened to you? And I just feel like, do we really have to explain everything or just live? Like, how do we tell our stories, or do we just let people decide who we are, or it's like, do we have to live it as a mystery? So that's one thing I don't understand. It's like, you can communicate with people and they will look at you and be like, oh, he's from this country, he's an immigrant, but you don't know my story.
Yeah.
And then once I start telling you my story, you start saying, oh my God, you actually an amazing person. You actually been through things that a normal person haven't been through.
Mm-hmm.
And what Roddy said, you willingly coming here as an immigrant is cool. But being a refugee is a very different experience than most people have
Yeah.
experienced. I mean, we're seeing this till today with what's going on today in the world, in the Middle East, over in Eastern Europe. Like, we're seeing this on a daily basis. So to just say, okay, the people that are coming from this war-torn country are immigrants, it's not really true. They are refugees. They are not immigrants.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how you both, like, shared two different experiences that people have, because one is forced to leave their country. As Congolese people, most of us leave Congo because of war. Like, if you are in the war part of Congo, you have to leave Congo. The same thing that's happening in Sudan, same thing is happening in, like, in the Middle East. Those people, if they leave one day and they go to the US, they go to the UK, like, they go to Australia, they're there because they ran away, because there's nowhere for
Right.
them to be. They don't have an option. But then if they come to a country like US, immediately everyone is like, oh, you left your country and came here. No, I didn't leave my country and come here. I was forced out of my country. So then they start using the whole, oh, go back to your country, this and that. Some people, they cannot go back to their country because
Right.
they left the country to
Yes,
be. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also to add to what you said is also when you come here as a refugee,
Yeah.
the U.S. government actually ensure that you stay here because they understand the magnitude and what's going on really in your country that you are not safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's two different things. But when you come here as an immigrant, also immigrants have problems because they assume that you are illegal, right?
Yes.
Most people will assume that you are an illegal immigrant because you have a study of an immigrant. No, there's
Yes.
actually immigrants that get here legally and they work so hard to to do right by this country and to respect the citizen of this country so they can also earn the citizenship. But when you are a refugee, it is this country that is protecting you from harm. So they're doing their duty and saying that, we are protecting this family because they are
Mm-hmm.
in danger, right? And then that is something that is beautiful about America and
Mm-hmm.
the Americans that understand that process.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for some reason, it's not being taught in school or it's not being taught anywhere, right? I think to start educating kids about the difference between the two, then yeah, I mean maybe that will help.
It is.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, the American government only care until you cross the checkpoints at the airport. After that, they're like, okay, you're on your own. Whenever you outside, no, let's be honest. Whenever you're outside the borders, they provide you with certain, of course, even whenever you're in the country, they provide you with certain benefits.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, once you get here, it's like, hey, this is what it is. You got 2 years to figure everything out. After that, you're on your own. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the buffer that they give to refugees. Is the privilege that certain immigrants don't have that we do. And then, of course, already touching the point when you say you just an immigrant, you gotta say, okay, are you legally here or illegally here? So that's the stigma that also exists among that.
Yeah, actually, what's funny is I was thinking when Roddy said that because everyone is grouped together. So now we all come here as refugees, and then the people come here as immigrants. And then now, when they group all of us in the one blanket and they say this is all immigrants, they immediately assume illegal immigrants. But one of the things is immigrants or refugees have to go through, like people that come here legally, like everyone that come to the US or go any part of the world legally, they go through an extensive process. Our process took about 3 4 years of
Hmm.
like back and forth through
Right.
immigration, through this medical, this and that. You had to do things that you are uncomfortable doing to make sure that they trust you and they bring you to this country, which is like something half of Americans don't do that. We have to take the civics exam or test to become a US citizen, but
Right.
Americans don't even, they can't even pass. I remember in high school, someone went around and asked questions to Americans, the same questions that are on the US citizenship test. 50% of Americans couldn't get those questions right. But we are forced to get those questions right and pass that exam to become a US citizen. I knew more about the US as a refugee coming here than like some of the Americans, but people don't think about all that.
Yeah, they do not. To the defense of the U.S., to the way the U.S. have set this up, right? Yeah, I gotta defend the U.S. because I mean, they build this nation with certain rules and certain regulations for people to follow. If you're
Absolutely.
coming here, you want to live the American dream, you have to do it the American way. And the American way is you better know about the founding fathers, you better know about the Constitution, and you better know about how rules and regulation work here, right? And then guess what? The opposite is in Africa. A lot of Africans do complain, well, the European and the Americans always travel here freely. It is not really their fault, right? Because
Yeah.
in most African countries, they don't have like set rules of them saying, you know what? Oh yeah, if you want to get here, I want you to pay this, I want you to do this. I want you to have a visa and I want you to have these documents. And there's no border patrol. There's nothing. You just come in, you do what you have to do, and you leave. But it's a kudos to the U.S. because they have these standard setting. And then when you go through all that process, it's a very hectic process, very annoying process to go through,
Hmm.
but it kind of reshape you and you look forward to do it for you to sign this paperwork and claim that, hey man, look, I'm an American citizen, right? And now you can get all these benefits. You can start voting. Your voice can be heard. Nothing is perfect, but I think on that side they got it down like 100%. And it's also for their own security.
What I was going to say is just, I think the way the American immigration process goes. It's like a psychological evaluation to test to see is this exactly what you want to do? Do you want to relinquish everything you had prior to come into this country? Do you understand the rules and regulations that we have here? If you want to become a citizen of this country legally, you have to be in this country on a legal point of entry, unlike in Congo, you can just go in there anywhere, just get into a bus near a nearby country and go into the country and do your business there. It's really a psychological test to test you. Is like, hey, is this really what you want to do? And once you're there, you won't even recognize it until you're on the other side. It was like, huh, they really tested my will to see if this is exactly what I wanted to do. If you had some ulterior motives, that's up to you. I don't blame you. Do your thing. But for people like us, we actually have a will to do better for our lives.
And so now, do you think it's fair for you to go through the process that you go through, even as an immigrant? You go through an intensive process. You have to do this. You have to basically pray every single night, hoping that they'll give you that chance to go have an interview, just an interview, for them to tell you if yes, you can leave or no, you're not leaving. But do you feel like going through all that process, it's fair for Americans now to look at you and say, oh, you are an illegal immigrant? Like, what goes on in your head if Americans come to you and say, oh, you're not American? Oh, you're an illegal immigrant after going through all that?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's fair to call me an illegal immigrant, right? Just flat out. Because being an immigrant here is not, it's not something that you give me for free, right? I bought
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah.
bought it my own money, work hard, and I have to prove myself to the US that, I'm a suitable citizen.
Hmm.
I can live here. I can be acting crazy. So, but for you to call me an illegal immigrant, regardless of that, I just think it's somehow ignorant of you to do that.
Yeah.
I think you need to be educated about what's really going on, and you need to understand how your country really functions. So I just think, to answer your question, it's not fair. It's not fair at all.
Does it make you angry though?
Yeah.
If it makes me angry, if you call me, because I understand the reason why you can call somebody illegal. Because let's be honest, right? There's people that are literally crossing the border right now, right? They get here illegally. They're not coming as refugees, but they come in illegally, right? And for being in America for so long, you understand now your tax money where it goes, right?
Hmm.
So if your tax money go to genuinely help someone who's not here to hurt you or to hurt your family or to steal something from you, that makes sense. But if your tax money is going to somebody who's, first of all, they travel here illegally, and on top of that, they're not trying to better themselves. They're trying to make this place even less safer and worse. Then it doesn't make sense, right? I'm all for it. Use my tax money to help people that actually need help, right? People
Yeah.
that have family, like kids that are running away from, like, from our neighbors in, like,
Yeah.
Mexico, right? If they're like people coming from Haiti, if like there's kids,
Hmm.
they're actually trying to do better here. Hey, my
Yeah.
tax money is up there to help them out. I don't mind. But if they ever caught any of them doing something crazy, I mean, I'm sorry, just ship them back. It is what it is.
That's what it is. But my question still stands. As someone who is not illegal, like the generalization that if you're not American, you are an illegal immigrant.
Yeah, I mean, it still suck because, and again, it just go back to the ignorance that exists in this country. And this is going to be a recurring theme in this conversation when we're talking about this whenever we're comparing the two, right? And they have the privilege of being born in this country and then call themselves American. But for us, we came here and we actually earned it. There is a difference between being privileged when like when you call like silver spoon kids, you are born into money. And then there are those who actually have to work for their money. There are two different things because you who are born into money, you don't see the value of what it is and if you actually earned it. So
Yeah.
for us, we earned that. For you, you had the privilege to be born with it. And it just goes back to the quote that said, privilege is blind to those who have it. And it's very powerful and it's very recurrent in our day-to-day lives when we see people interacting with people and how they actually talk with immigrants and how they actually see the world.
Going back to something that JP said about like African countries, yeah, it was you that said African countries, you can just travel anytime you want. What's funny is I went to Congo last year in 2024 and On my way there, I had a Sudanese person and an American person with us, and we were like ready to go. We get to London, and then Ethiopian Airlines said, I'm so sorry. You can't go to Congo. You have to be Congolese. You have to be born in Congo, or one of your parents has to be Congolese, and they have to give you supporting evidence that they are Congolese, or you have to have a visa to go to Congo. And we're like, wait, hold up, hold up. When did this happen? It happened 5 days before we left the US. So if you want to go to Congo right now and you're not Congolese, you need a visa to enter Congo.
So this just recently
It
happened.
happened in 2024, 5 days before
Oh,
we went to Congo. But
So
unfortunately, we didn't read that.
so right now you said next time you have to travel to Congo, you need a visa.
If you're not Congolese, either
If
you were
you're
not
not
born there or one of your parents is not Congolese. It's Congo.
okay, so that brings a question, right? Right, for people that were born there and they grew up here, and then obviously when you become an American citizen, they tell you to give up one and then become solely a U.S. citizen.
Yes.
You don't have the right to claim dual citizenship, right?
Yes.
Only if you have to go back and say, hey, I want to do dual citizenship. So how does that work?
So right now on your US passport, it has your place of birth. That is how you're identified. Yes. They check that. It shows where you were born. And if you were born in Congo, it's going to show that you were born in Congo. If you were not, it's going to show that you were not born there. So if you're born in like another country, let's say Ethiopia, if you're born in Nigeria, you're born anywhere else, but you have Congolese parents, you can say, okay, my parents are Congolese, but your parents have to send a copy of their passport. So my recommendation is do your research because my mentality was just like that. Why is it that African countries, anyone can go? If you have an American passport, you have one of the most powerful passports in the world. You can literally go anywhere in the world without even getting a visa. But then that happened and my thought process changed. I'm like, okay, at least they're
Wait,
doing things.
so okay, so what about for our non-Congolese, like okay, the white folks, right? The people that travel, the Asian, other ethnicity, right? They go there. So what do they need? You just need to say, "Hey, I'm here to visit,"
No,
and they get in.
you apply for a visa. You have to
Or they
get a
gotta, yeah, they
visa.
do have to apply for a visa. Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, you get a
Dang.
visa. Yeah, things have
Yeah, that's
changed.
actually that's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Actually pretty good. Yeah, that's
yeah.
good.
I'm actually glad they improved that because one thing that I've heard, I know this is going to be I don't know if it's gonna be a bad thing or a good thing, but it's people that they go to like Tanzania, like the bordering country of Congo, and then they'll just take a bus and
And
drive
go.
into Congo.
I think you know what I think. I think it's a cool thing.
Hmm.
I would rather have African countries don't charge each other to travel within the continent
Yes.
than because you're not leaving the continent, right? I mean, like here in Canada, you can have a passport and say, "Hey, I'm an American," they let you through.
Hmm.
You know,
But
so
that's
you don't need to apply for Canadian visa. You don't need it. You just need a U.S. passport to get in. But yeah, like in Africa, I think African, if they unite that way, it'll make it easier on us to really do business together.
the issue that
Yeah.
with there is there's a lot of like issues, right? Let's say for Congo and Rwanda, for example, the war that has been happening since like the Rwandan genocide. There's been that silent war that's been going on for like years and years that kicked some of us out. There has to be peace first, right? There has to be level of agreement between all the countries. They have to build trust with one another and say, okay, I can trust you that if we agree to this transaction, that you going to keep your end of the bargain. And that's one of the issues. Our leaders, they don't trust each other. Canada and the US knows that Canada doesn't like trouble. They just want to be peaceful and
Hmm.
they're not going to come and try to pick a fight with the US. But
That is true. That is
that's
true.
not
Yeah.
the same case in Africa. That's what it was is holding us back. All right. Okay. So we have one more question and then we can end this conversation. But what do you think needs to change in society or government policies to better support immigrants and refugees?
Yeah.
That's a tough question.
I,
Then
you both said something that was really important at the beginning of the conversation that there was lack of education and also ignorance.
yes, I would say educate people the difference between the refugees and immigrants, right? Because you never know the day that the American citizen is gonna have to pull the card to be a refugee, whether in Canada
Mm-hmm.
or whether in Mexico or I don't know, whatever they go to someone's country, you never know when they can be like, you know what, I want to be a refugee,
Yeah. Yeah.
like or being an immigrant, right? Because we do usually see a lot of American traveling to France or to travel to another country, but they feel entitled because they're American,
Yeah.
right? No, you're an immigrant over there. That's how you get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So as an immigrant, when you go into someone's country, you gotta understand the rules over there are different from the US. You're now on US soil. So you're in someone else's soil, so you gotta respect what's going on over there. Educating people on things like that is better for them and you keep them safe. Education and then also policy. I would say, they need to actually be more lenient on people that actually work hard to be citizen, right?
Yeah.
Even for the refugees, right? Like I think there's things that they need to be like, you know what? These people actually work hard. They
Mm-hmm.
actually earn this. Because after 15 years living here, you still treated like crap,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense, right? After some time living here, right? It doesn't matter if I have an accent or not. You should still respect me because what? I do right in your country, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's not up to the people really to really judge you, right? I think it's up to maybe like law enforcement, right?
Mm-hmm.
People that
Mm-hmm.
work actually in the government that are concerned about how you living here, right?
Yeah.
But another kid that his parents were grew up here in America shouldn't talk to me about me being an illegal immigrant or being an immigrant at all. It doesn't concern them because you're just a citizen just like me.
Yeah. Exactly.
But for someone that works with the government, then I respect that because I'm like, okay, you're coming in a place where you have to play rules and you have to show, there's law that applies and things like that,
Yeah.
you know. But I don't think a normal citizen or someone's walking the street should go out there and then disrespect somebody because they're here illegally or they're here legally or they're here as a refugee, you know. Just be quiet, count your blessing, and keep it pushing.
Ooh.
Simple as that.
Oh. Oh. Be quiet. Just can we end?
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, I do agree with that because we can educate the mass population as much as we want, but it's not benefiting them in any way, shape, or form because they really don't care at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Unless you're a politician, you have something to gain from immigrants that are coming in to support your cause.
Mm-hmm.
So you get the extra votes that you need to push a campaign. I mean, let's keep it real. Let's be honest about this. So, and I just think that we have to give just better incentive to both immigrants and refugees, so we both feel like we are being treated fairly whenever we come to this country. And one thing, we all have different experiences, and we get to this country differently due to our own circumstances in life,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And we should not be subjected to judgment on how we get here. And for the ones that get here illegally, like, yes, there is something more powerful than what kicked out of our country. I mean, we came here legally. For those who came here illegally, you have to ask yourself, what actually in the world happened for you to be like, you know what, I am going to put myself in a container and travel thousands of miles into this country that I don't know nothing about just to be there. So we should not be prone to those type of judgments right off the first interaction you have with somebody. That's what I would like to end it off, and just giving people the the incentive will say, hey, you are here, the protection, the shelter and food, and that what they need to be able to what they call the level playing field. What's here in America, they give you shelter, food, and what's the other thing? You pay your taxes. That's what they want. That's it.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you guys both mentioned not judging people, like educating people, but also making sure that the American people also don't just be quick to judge. But I also feel like looking at the legal process of coming here, the government need to kind of evaluate that because it takes some people years to become even a citizen or go get a green card. like the process is so backlogged. The government doesn't put enough resources there, and they need to address the legal process of being in the US and anywhere in the world. The government needs to evaluate their legal process for people to be legally in their countries, because the more complicated and the longer it takes, people start to think, oh, maybe if I went in illegally, it's going to be faster than if me, I have to sit here and risk my life and wait for them to legally tell me if they're going to admit me or not. So if you address the legal process by like looking at the time and like looking at the actual process itself. And for immigrants, right? Like the US makes you give up your citizenship to your home country to become a US citizen here. But then you have people that are go like go back to your country. So where am I going if you took away, like you made me give up my citizenship to my country? So technically, where are all the refugees that gave up their citizenship going to go? And Americans don't think about things like that. They just think, okay, we want to be right. We want to address this. They like to talk. They're not going to educate themselves on the matter. They just like to like open their mouth and talk about things. And I think
Yeah,
that education is
they can
needed.
open the mouth all day, but at the end of the day, what's going to happen is if I'm coming to this country and they ask me, hey, you have to renounce your citizenship to be a United States citizenship, and if somebody I run into somebody and they say, oh, you immigrants, you go back to your country. I'm like, well, you can say that all you want. At the end of the
This
day,
is my
I'm
country.
here. I'm here. There is nothing legally you can do. All you can do is talk. That's it. How is it going to affect me? I'm going to look at you and think you are utterly stupid because you don't know me and you just went out of your way.
So
I don't know. I don't know if you had a bad day and you just needed to vent to somebody. That's how I'm going to take it.
yeah,
You just needed to vent.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah. Well, so we're going to end there. Thank you so much to my guests, Jean-Paul and Roddy. We appreciate having you here. We appreciate your opinion. You appreciate your experience that you got to share with us today. But anyone or like on the viewers, the audience, everyone, please, if you have something to say, go ahead and comment when you watch this episode, because I am very interested in seeing like what other people's experiences are on like different parts of the world. So please go ahead and also go ahead and follow us on all social media, subscribe, share this with your family members, your friends, anyone you think is needs to know this, because this is a very important topic. And you can use these videos as a conversation starter for anyone that you need to have conversation with. Thank you for tuning in to I Am African, the podcast. I am your host, Liz, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.